Hello there, my lovely people on the internet. How you guys doing? In this video, we're gonna cover ES6. I know a lot of you guys were super excited for this one, so let's get going. And what I'm actually gonna do is we're gonna do the old way of writing JavaScript, and then we're gonna take that and we're gonna modify it, and we're gonna do it in ES6, just so you can see the differences of how the language evolved and how it actually got simpler in a lot of ways. So let's get going. Open up your VS Code and let's do ES6. Waba! Okay, so the first thing we're gonna cover is variables. Now, the old way we used to write variables is like this. We write var, and then we give it a name. Let's say we have a names list, and let's say this is an array. So we have, let's go Ed, and John, and I don't know, let's go Mike, okay? Now we can create different kind of variables, and the problems we used to have with this, just to show you one, let's do a counter or something. Okay, we can set it to 10, for example. However, we can also modify it by just writing counter is equal to 5 or something. And that's gonna work just fine. So if I console log counter now, everything is still gonna work here. As you can see down here, I get 5. So I just opened up this in NodeMon just so we can see the results. So we can easily modify it. Now the problems we also used to have with this is that we could redeclare this variable. So rather than just changing the value, we could redeclare it like this. And as you can see, it still works, but this could give us a lot of trouble because you never really want to redeclare a variable, especially if you do it somewhere in a function or whatever, and then it just resets the whole entire variable. So this is a very big no-no that JavaScript really messed up. So, okay, so this is like one of the first problems we have with this. Now let's talk a bit about scoping. Scoping basically means where this variable is available. So with var, all you have is the global variable, which is if I just write it here, counter is 5. All right, this is the global variable. And with this, I have access everywhere in my JavaScript. However, if we create a function called sayName or something like that, okay, I can use this counter here and it will work just fine. However, if I create a variable here, let's say name is equal to ed, and then we just do a console log, and we're gonna say name. Okay, I just want to console log my name. So here, if I just call this function, I'm gonna say sayName. All right, this works. We have ed. However, this name variable is not available outside this function. So basically what we had is everything that's outside of functions, so this counter is available in here. We can use the counter in the function. However, any variable that's inside a function, we cannot use it outside. So if I console log name here, this is not going to be available. And as you can see, we have a crash and it's going to say name is not defined. Okay, so this is what we basically had in old JavaScript. All right, let's take a look at the new JavaScript. So what we have here is let and const. These are the two new ways we can write variables. Now let's start with const, a to-do list. Okay, and let's say we have milk and cow. Why would you buy a cow? Anyways, okay, let's just leave these two. Now, what we had here with const, the difference is that we cannot redeclare this, what we have in here. We cannot modify it. So if I want to say to-do list is equal to, let's just say milk or something. If we hit save, we're going to get a crash. Let me just remove this so I don't call it so we can see everything more clearly. As you can see, we still have a crash that's going to say assignment to constant variable. So this is going to give us an error because with the const, you cannot reassign the data in it. So, and what we also have is the let, and let's just do another counter in here. Let me just remove this one so we don't have any issues. And let's say we have 10 here again. And if I change the counter here to 5 or something like that, this is gonna work just fine. It's not gonna give us error. So the general rule of thumb is always use const, and whenever you wanna reassign a value of a variable, then you can change it to let. But generally, you're gonna use const way more than let. Now, another difference that applies to both let and const is that, and we also have this thing, this applies to both, that we cannot redeclare the whole variable like this. This is gonna give us an error, and it's just gonna prevent us from stupid things. Identifier counter has already been declared, okay? So it's gonna be like, yo, I know you're doing stupid things sometime, but let me just help you out here. Okay, so it doesn't let us do that, which is really good. Okay, now you remember how we said that we have a global scope here and a function scope. With let, it's actually a bit better because it's still the same. We have global and functional scoping. However, we also have block scoping, which basically means if we have these brackets, the variable is only gonna be available in these brackets. Now, what are some examples of that? Well, what if we just do a for loop? So if we use a for loop, I can say let I equals 0, and then I can say, let's just make a list so we can loop through something. I'm gonna create a const list, and I can just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And if I say that the list dot length that I is smaller than the list dot length, then I'm gonna increment this I, okay? And here we can just console log I, okay? We run this, so it's just gonna loop through everything, just like that. Now the wonderful thing about this is that we don't really want to use this let anywhere outside here, right? We just want to use it to just loop over something. Okay, so if I console log I outside here, it's gonna give us an error. And that's because let and const are block scoped. So everywhere where you have these curly braces, then it's only gonna be available in there. And this is so good because when you had var in here, so let's do var I, and then we increment it. Well, look at that. If we console log I outside here, it kind of bled out of this, and now it's available in the global scope. And this can give us a lot of trouble because maybe you want to do another for loop. And if you use I again, well, that's just going to override this. So it's going to cause a lot of issues. Okay, so this is going to be bracket scoped. And as you can see, it gives us an error. And yeah, that's about it. It's really nice. I highly recommend you using these because it's gonna make you just write better code and it's gonna catch a lot of errors, especially if you're just beginning with JavaScript. All right, let's talk about concatenation. So the old way we used to do things is, let's just say we have a name variable with add, and let's say I just want to console log a string and then I want to attach the variable name to it. So I would do something like this. Hello, my name is, and then we would leave a space and we add a plus, and then we just add the variable name. And that's gonna console log everything for us just right. Okay, so you just add quotes to whatever you want, the string, and then to concatenate a variable, you just add the plus and the variable name. We can just create a constant, let's say add, and we're gonna set this to, actually name, we're gonna set this to add. And what we can do is we can just console log and we can use backticks, so the thing next to your 1, and we can just write whatever we want. We can say, hello, my name is, and to add the variable in here, we don't have to do the plus and the other things anymore. We can just do the $, and we can do just curly braces. And here we can just say name. Hit save, and as you can see, we have the same result. However, here we can add it's not gonna break. We can add quotation marks, hello, and everything is just gonna work just the way you expect it. And again, if you want to continue this, so let's just say we have an age of 25, you can easily just continue it. Everything is done basically inside these backticks. It's hard to remember backticks. Oh, and my age is, just do $, and curly braces age, and everything is magical. So that's string concatenation with backticks. A short one I kind of want to show you is called object literals. So let's create a function called book. And what we have here is, let's just say show book. Okay, and let's add a title and an author. Okay, and what I kind of want to do here is I just kind of want to return an object. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to have a title of title. Okay, so whatever I insert in here, and I also want to have a author of author, author of author. Okay, and now when I call let's do get book, and when I call this, let's create another, let's do variable, because this is the old way we're doing here. Let's just create a book here, and we're gonna call get book, and we are gonna add a title of Harry Potter, and we're gonna add the author of JK. Okay, and when we take a look here, console log book. Okay, we're just gonna get an object with the things that we called in. Okay, super simple. The only difference that we have here, let me copy and paste it in the ES6 way, is if you have the title the same as the title in the parameter, you can just get rid of this and keep it short, like so. Okay, you don't need to repeat yourself. And you can just do title and author. Hit save, and that's basically gonna work the same way. So the properties, if they're the same, you can get rid of it and just keep it simple like that. Alrighty, so the next one is gonna be object deconstruction. Wow, sounds so cool. What is it, Ed? Well, we can have a object, we can say user is gonna be equal to, again, I'm gonna use this example 10,000 times. We have Ed and we have age of 25. Okay, let's just leave it at these two. Now, how do I get the user.name? Well, let's say I want to use this multiple times, so I kind of want to store it in a variable. So we can say var, I can say my name is going to be equal to user.name. Okay, and now we have access to that user.name. Hit save, and it's going to give us an error because I wrote my name and this one is with uppercase. Hit save, and as you can see, we have Ed. So this is how we would deconstruct a property from an object. Now in the new ES6, it's way simpler. So we can have a const list, and we can set this equal to, and we have an object. I'm gonna say name. It's gonna be a shopping list. And let's just say we have items, and we just have an array here of the different items. Milk, I'm gonna add cow again. Oh God. Okay, so this is what we used to, just a normal object like up here. Now, how do we deconstructure and get these different values from here? Well, we can do something like this. We can just say const, and we can do curly braces, and we can just add the different things we want from this list. So we can say, I want the name and I want the items. And what do we set this equal to? Well, we're gonna set it equal to from the place we basically want to extract these things. So I'm gonna get the name items from the list. So we just add the list. Again, after the equal, you just add the object, and here you just add the different things you want to extract. And now if we console log name and items, as you can see, we can get both of them separately. So now I can just easily use name and items wherever I want in my code. So that's object deconstruction. All right, let's cover arrow functions, because this is, I know it's a big thing and a lot of people confuse it and they're not sure what's different about it. So the old way we could write functions is like so. We can write function, let's just say name, and we can just say console log hello, I am Ed. And another way we could do it is we could write a variable, and we can say, we can just create a variable, let's say age, and we can set this equal to a function, like so. And we can say console log my age is, well, I don't want to tell you. Okay, and let's see, let's console log these, let's call them. So we're gonna invoke both of these functions, say age, and they are gonna work just fine. Okay, now the new way of writing it would be like so. We can write const, and we can say location, and we can set this equal to, and what we're gonna do is, let's just take everything we have up there. So we have a function like so, console log my location is unknown. And what we can do is we can just get rid of the word function here. We can just leave these parameters, the normal parentheses, and we can add an equal sign and a bigger than sign. So we make this arrow basically. Oh, arrow functions, who would have thought? Okay, so this is how we can create an arrow function. And if we save this and we call this, say location, then it's gonna work the same way. My location is unknown. Okay, another thing we can do is, let's say we have a parameter in here. So let's say we have a, I don't know, Paris or something in here, okay? Not Paris, let's do location. And then we're gonna add Paris down here, okay? So let's do Paris. And then we can change this. Let's do a backtick, and we can do my location is, and we can just do $, curly braces, location. Okay, so we are pretty much giving Paris, this is gonna go in here, and it's gonna be inserted in here. So if we hit save, my location is Paris. And as you can see, when you only have one parameter in here, you can also get rid of the parentheses like so. Very nice. Now if you have two in here, then you will need the parentheses. You cannot get rid of it, only if you have one. And even if you have none, you will still need the parentheses. So that applies only if you have one to remove them, okay? Now, another thing that you can do is you can get rid of these curly braces if you're only returning one single thing. Okay, so we can get rid of this, and we can just set it equal like so. And this is only gonna work if I only wanna return one single thing. So if we hit save, as you can see, this works just fine. Now, if you have multiple lines of code in here, this is not gonna work again. You will need to have, it's only gonna work if you have one single thing that's gonna return. And what this also is gonna do is it's gonna implicitly return this line of code. So you can imagine it basically gives you a return, a console log, my location is whatever, okay? So that's the difference there. Another difference between the old way and the new way is the way this one assigns the keyword this. So let's also take a look at that. We're gonna delete everything in here, and let's just create a object. We're gonna say variable user is gonna be equal to, I'm gonna give myself a name, Ed, and we're gonna give an age of 25, and let's just say name. Okay, we're gonna create a say name, and I'm gonna add colon, and we're gonna call a function in here. And if I write console log my name is, and we can do plus, and we can say this dot name. If I call user dot say name, this is gonna give me my name is Ed. Now what is this dot name? Again, all you have to do is wherever you call the function, you just take a look at what's on the left side of the dot, which is user, and then kind of user, this keyword basically means user. Okay, so wherever you call the function, take a look what's on your left. Hey, it's user. Okay, well this then means user. So we locate the this. So basically this means user.name. Okay, you can basically replace this with user.name. Okay, so that's how it used to work. Now the problem is here, I'm gonna give you an example, is what if inside this function I wanna call another function? So let's do another function. Let's do a variable full name in here, and this is just a normal function. And what I want to do is I want to console log my name is, I'm gonna add a plus, and we're gonna say name plus, and my age is plus age, like so. Hit save. And I'm also gonna call this function right inside the sayName function. So I'm gonna call full name. And let's also add the this keyword because it's important. So we refer to this object, this.age. And as you can see here, now we're gonna get my name is undefined and my age is undefined. That's because the context here is not the object anymore. So we're not calling user.fullname, right? Because we have it inside the sayName function, so it's not gonna work. And what we used to do to get around this problem is in the sayName function, we would actually say var dat is equal to this. So now dat is gonna be the new context. So here we can do dat.name and dat.age. And now it works, as you can see. Because here, again, it loses the context. Now, I don't know about you, but this is just overly complicated, and I feel like nobody should do this. And what we have here, okay, so screw this. We don't wanna do these things. So let's get rid of this, just so I don't have a ton of console logs, is we can superbly simplify everything here. So we can say const user is gonna be equal to, we can just say name, and we're gonna say ed, and we're gonna say age again. Let's do 25. And let's do say name, and we can just set a normal function for now. And I'm gonna console log, let's do backticks. My name is this.name, so this is gonna work just fine. However, in here, let's say I wanna do another function, but I wanna maintain like the this.name and this.age. I still wanna refer to the user, okay? Because again, when you stack it inside the functions, it's not gonna be user anymore. It's not going to reference to that anymore. So what arrow functions basically do, they're smart enough to let you know that, hey, I know what you're referring to. I know you want the user reference and not the window that it's going to jump to. So we can do full name again here. And now if I just set this to an arrow function like so, and I just console log, my name is this.name, and my age is this.age, hit save, and when we call this user.sayName, hit save, and let's also call this function in here. So we're gonna say full name. As you can see, now everything is gonna work just fine, just how you expect it. So basically, we can get rid of that variable that is equal to this kind of nonsense, like that. So remember, a practical example I can give you is probably when you do let's say you have a element on your page, so you have a button, and then you add an event listener, and then you add a click, and then when you run a function in here, okay, so in this scenario, this would basically mean the button. So again, you take a look at where your function is run, and then you just take a look at what's on your left side on the dot, and it's button. So this would be button. However, if we call another function in here, let's do variable a fade or something to my page, and we can run another function here, and maybe I want to get rid of the button or something in here. If I say like this dot style dot display is equal to none or something like that, this is not going to work because this is not going to reference to the button anymore. Okay, so what you would do here is you would use an arrow function in here, and then you would still have the button reference up here. Okay, and again, normally if you would have it like this, you would have to say variable that is equal to this, and then you can add this that in here, okay? But everything is way simpler now. You just add an arrow function and it's gonna solve all your problems, okay? So those are arrow functions. Okay, let's take a look at default parameters. So what is default parameters? Let me show you. So we would have something like a function, and maybe I want to multiply two numbers. So I'm going to call multiply in here, and I'm going to multiply x and y, okay? So again, I don't know these values, but when we call the function, we're going to add them to it. So basically what you want to do is I'm going to console log x times y. Where's my times? Y. I wrote times there, did you see? I'm going full on stupid. Okay, if I call multiply here, and I'm gonna add 5 and 10, well, it's gonna just console log these two numbers. Hit save, we get 50. Look at that, super simple, okay? Now, the problem is here, if I don't add anything in here, like that, then it's gonna give me not a number because we didn't add anything to these parameters. So we kind of wanna make this bug free so we don't encounter these issues. So what we can do actually is we can declare a variable called a, and we can set this to x, and we can set a default value that we wanna use just in case people don't add something in this parameter. So I can do 1, and var b is equal to y, and again this is the OR symbol that we're using in here, and I missed one up here. So if this is not declared, then it's just gonna jump to 1. That's basically what's happening. We can add 1 here. So rather than doing console log x and y, we can do console log a times b. So again, if we leave this empty, then it's just gonna jump to 1. That's all it's doing. So when we hit save, now we get 1. So we're not encountering any errors. And this still works the same. So if we add 10 and 20, it's gonna give us 200. Okay, so it's not gonna error out. Now, I don't know about you, again, I'm super stupid, and this seems overly complicated for something so simple. So what ES6 is doing for us is this. We can do let's do a modern way of writing it. We're gonna do const add, and we're gonna set this equal to, we're just gonna do an arrow function in here, and we're gonna console log, let's do C plus D, okay? And in here, we can do again C and D. So when we call add, let's add 20 and 50, okay, we get 70, so that works. If we add nothing, it's gonna error out again. But the nice thing is we don't have to do all of this banana nana jumbo. We can just go up here and set the default parameter by writing C equals to 1 and D equals to 1. And just like that, when we hit save, everything just works nicely. So this is the new way we can declare a default parameter. All right, let's also take a look at some new array functions that are available for us in ES6. One of them is, let's just create an array here. I'm gonna use the shopping list again, shopping list, and we're gonna set this equal to milk. We're gonna add the cow again. Let's do eggs and bananas and chocolate. Choco, okay? There we go. So we have a list in here. And one of the first ones that we can use is something called for each, which kind of acts like a loop. So we can just call shopping list dot, and we can use the for each function on top of it, okay? Like this. And we can add the parentheses. And what we have here is basically another function that we can call. However, since we learned the new arrow function way, we can just get rid of this, and we can just add a normal parentheses and use it like this. Okay, and what we have available here is each individual item in this array. So I'm gonna add item. Okay, you can name this whatever you want, but this is a single product. Actually, that's good. Product, if we name this product, from this shopping list. So if I console log product, then it's gonna basically loop over each of these properties. And remember, since we only have one parameter here, we can get rid of the parentheses as well. So as you can see, it's just gonna loop over each of the items in the array, okay? And now if we want, we can also add a plus in here and say nice or something. And as you can see, after each item in here, it's just gonna take it and add the nice to it. Milk nice, cow nice, eggs nice. Okay? Now, another thing that we have access here is if we take the parentheses back, we can add an comma and index. So we can also get the different numbers of these elements. Okay? So let's add backticks, and I'm gonna say the index is index, and the product is product. Hit save. As you can see, we get a return of the different positions of each item inside this array. Nice. All right, so this is for each. Another thing we have is something called map. Let's get rid of this. Now what map allows us to do is we can get this array and we can kind of make a copy of it and modify it, okay? So what that's gonna do is we can make a new list, let's say const new list, and we can set this equal to shopping list. So basically the list or array that we wanna modify, and we can add dot map to this. And again, we are gonna be able to access each individual item in here, like so. Item plus new or something. Hit save. And if we console log new list in here, we're gonna get undefined because we need to return this. So what map is basically gonna do, let's return item plus new. And as you can see, it basically makes a copy of the array above, and we declare a new array, and we're gonna insert this copy, but we can modify it however we want. It doesn't work with for each. For each basically just loops through everything, but it doesn't actually return anything to us. Map, on the other hand, is used to actually take the array above and just make a copy of it and modify it however we want. And again, remember that if we just have one short line of code, we can actually get rid of the brackets here, and we can get rid of the return key as well, like so. And hit save, and as you can see, everything still works just fine, because if we don't add the brackets, it implicitly returns this for us. Okay, super. Another thing we have is filter. Now what filter is gonna do is basically what it says. It's gonna take an array and we can filter out individual items that we want. So maybe I wanna search and filter out and only get one item from this shopping list. So maybe I just want eggs, okay? So I'm gonna say const, and I'm gonna say filter list, and here I just want the eggs. So we can say shopping list. Whoa, what was that? Shopping list dot filter, and here we have again access to the item, so to the each individual item in this array. And here what I can say is I can return, and all I want is the item that is equal to eggs. Hit save, and if I console log filter list, let's get rid of these console logs, hit save, and now I just get back an array with eggs. Again, we can modify this and just make it, get rid of the curly braces like so, and look at that, we just have everything, we just have eggs. And what I can also do is I can return everything that is not eggs just by adding a not symbol here, an exclamation point, and that's just going to return me the list, everything that doesn't involve eggs. All right, the next topic is going to be constructor functions and classes. So the old way we used to do is constructor functions, and now we are going to classes. So what is a constructor? I cannot even say it, okay? Constructor function. Basically, it's a blueprint that it's a function that basically lets us create an object. So when we call that function, it creates us an object, okay? So we can have something like a person. So we can say function, we have a person, and normally a constructor function is used with a uppercase. When you start, it's uppercased, just to signify that, hey, we're actually gonna use this to create an object. And what we can have in this parameter is basically the different kind of values that we wanna have in this object. So maybe I wanna have a name, an age, and a hair color, okay? And what we would do here is we would call something like this.name is equal to this parameter name. Now, this.name means nothing right now, and I'm gonna show you when this is actually gonna get its value. So this basically means nothing now. It's the window object, okay? We can say age dot, this dot age is equal to age, and this dot hair color is equal to hair color, okay? Perfect. Now, what we can do is we can create a new person. We can say variable ed is equal to new person. And when we call this new keyword, it actually creates us an object. So now this is gonna refer, this keyword is gonna refer to ed. And here we can just add the different parameters that we wanna use. So ed is the name, the age is gonna be 25, I'm getting old, and the hair color is not nice. Okay, hit save. And when we console log ed now, we are gonna get the new object that we just created. Cool. Now, how can we also add different functionality to this? Well, we could do it in here, but actually the correct way of doing things without getting too much in depth is by getting the person and adding onto the prototype a specific function. Say name is going to be equal to a function that's going to say console log my name is, I'm just going to add the old way, this dot name. And right now, if we go down here, we can just say ed dot say name. And my name is Ed. As you can see, this works just fine. So we would have to add the different functions on the prototype of this person. Now let's take a look at something else. Maybe I want to create another constructor function. So I'm going to delete everything in here, and I want to have, so we have a person here, but let's say I want to create a constructor function that defines specifically me, okay? So the person usually has name, age, and hair color. But maybe if we create a function ed, this is only gonna refer to a lot of things that I specifically have, okay? Not just a normal person. So maybe what I'm doing, what things I like, and things like that. So let's say occupation. Occupation can be one thing, things I like, and hobbies, okay? So this kind of only involves me. However, besides these different things, so we would call this dot occupation is equals to occupation, and this dot hobbies equals hobbies. Let's get rid of this like, because it makes no sense. Okay? But besides these things, what if I kind of want to also inherit the functionality of the person? Because I'm a person. I don't know about you, but I think I'm a person, hopefully. And I kind of want to have a name, age, and hair color as well, besides these things. So what you would have to do is basically add the different parameters in here. So we have occupation, hobbies. You would just copy and paste everything from up here down here, like so. we can get the context of this by writing person.call, and we can just bind the keyword this in this context. And we can just add name, age, and hair color. Name, age, and hair color. And now we can call all of these parameters. And this is going to give us an error because I don't have a comma here. We can just kind of get the functionality from up here down here. Hit save. And now if I call add, so I'm going to create a new object, const new, let's just say new person is going to be me. So I'm going to call new add. And we can just add the occupation dev, hobbies, dancing. It's not true, but Edwin is going to be the name, 25. I'm getting old, hair color, not nice. And now when we console log the person, you're going to see that we got all of the functionality from up here. However, one thing that we didn't get is this. We didn't get the function. We only got these different properties. So how can we get the functions in here? Now, the only thing that we didn't have so far is the functionality up here. So what if I want to use all the functionality of the person in my add function here? So I want to attach even the functionality to this. Well, what we needed to do, basically, let me make this a bit smaller. We would go down here, so right above this, and what we would have to do is say add.prototype is going to be equal to object.create, and we're going to say person.prototype. So basically, we're going to just get the prototype of the person from up here. And when we hit save, now on the person, we can actually call say name. This one here. Hit save, and let's see if we get the console log, as you can see here. So what it's going to do is it's going to search for say name on the prototype, and it's not going to find it. So it's going to search for the one above in the person. Okay, so this is kind of super complicated, and yeah, it's a bit messy in my opinion. So let's take a look at the ES6 way of doing all of these different things. So rather than creating a constructor function like so, I have a hard time saying that word for some reason. We can just create a class, and then we can give it the name we want. So we can have a shopping list, like so. And we can do curly braces, like so. And in here, we can actually call something called constructor, okay? Constructor function. So this would be our constructor function. And in here, we can kind of just do the same things. We can do the names, and we can do the, not names, let's do items. And we can do the number of items. And yeah, that's it. Let's just have 2. And we can call this dot items is going to be equal to items. And we can also call this dot number is going to be equal to number. So the number of items we have, okay? And that's all we need. If we want to add a function, all we have to do is go outside the constructor function and just say, let's just do one, say list. And we just say list. We can do parentheses and curly braces. And we can just say console log this dot items, like so. Super. So let's create an object from this. So we can say const, and we're gonna say my list is gonna be equal to new shopping list. And then here, let's just add an array of different items. Milk, choco, that's chocolate, Red Bull for short. And the number of items we have is 3. Okay, console log my list. And everything should work just fine. As you can see, we have the shopping list with the different items and the number. Okay, let's see if this works. If we call my list dot, and we can just call say list. So everything should work just fine. Okay, there we go. We have milk, choco, and Red Bull. Okay, perfect. So let's take a look of creating another class, and let's inherit all the functionality from the shopping list. So maybe I have one item that I want to describe more. So we can do a class of item, or product should be a better name. And here, again, we have a constructor, and maybe we can say the amount and the cost, okay? So this dot amount is going to be equal to amount, and this dot cost is going to be equal to cost, okay? But we also want to inherit everything from up here. So the items and the number, for example. So how do we get that down here? Well, what we can do is just call the keyword extends, and then we just give it the name we want to extend from. So the shopping list, just like that. So we extend the shopping list. So now we have the constructor, and we just add everything from up here again, the way we used to do it up here, and the more complex kind of way. So we just add them everything here, add a comma, good. And now to bind it to this product, like we did up here with the person called this, and we add these things, it's kind of a bit complicated. But what we can do here is just call the super keyword and just add items and number here, okay? And that's all we need. And now if we call a const product is going to be equal to new product, like so, we can just add the items, the number, amount, and cost in here. We can add the Red Bull, the chocolate, and candy. And then we can also do the number. It's going to be 3. We can do the amount. I added amount and this is the number. Okay, so the amount of this specific product, let's say 2, and the cost is gonna be, let's say $20 or something like that. Okay, and then we can console log product, and everything is gonna work just fine, as you can see down here. Good. And what we can also do is we can say product dot say list, and that's just gonna work just fine, as you can see here. We can inherit everything just by using the keyword extends shopping list and adding this super and just adding the parameters that you're extending from. Okay, so I think classes is way better. Everything makes it super simple, but I want to let you know that when you're writing this class product, what it's actually doing behind the scenes, it's actually just going to create you a constructor function. So yeah, it's basically the same thing. It's just written in a nicer way. All right, the last important thing I want to cover today is promises. Now, before this, we used to do callbacks. So we would use callbacks when we don't necessarily want to call a function right away. Okay, we want to wait for something to happen. Now, a good example of this that everybody uses is maybe a click event, right? A click event takes a function, right? And it only executes when you click on something, then it runs the function. Same thing can happen when let's say we get a user from a database. We don't necessarily get that information all of a sudden, so we use a callback to run when we get back the actual information. So let me show you quickly like how this would work. So we can have a function. Let's say we can get data, okay? Let's say we get data from a database. So this would be the actual data, and the second argument would be the callback. So this would only run when we actually get back the information. Now to do a fake simulation of this, we can use something called set timeout, and this is gonna run after a certain amount of seconds. So I'm gonna just do an arrow function here. And what I can do is I can console log, let's say, reading data, reading from the database, like so. And here I can actually add a time. So if I add a comma, let's say 2 seconds, okay? And in here, I can call this callback function from the parameter, and I can get back some data. Like so. So I can say data is gonna be data. So down here, what we can do is we can actually get this get data function. We can call it like so. We can add the data that's coming back from the database. Let's say we get back I don't know, a number 5, just to keep it simple. And here the callback is going to be the function that's going to execute after the data is back. So in this function here, we can actually access the data that's coming back. Okay, so I can add data here again. And if I console log data, this is going to return the moment when this 2 seconds expire. So when we hit save, 1, 2, and look at that, we get back the data from the database. So the way this would work usually is you would add the callback, and then you call the callback here, and here is where you actually have the data available for you. Okay, and this is asynchronous. So if I just add a console log start and console log finish down here, console log finish, you're gonna see that these two codes are gonna run first, and then this is gonna run. Hit save, start finish, as you can see, and after 2 seconds we get this back. So this is not gonna block, so it's not gonna say start and then we have to wait 2 seconds for this to come up, and then we get the data and then the finish runs. So that's not how it works, because this is an asynchronous operation. Okay, let's take a look on how we can take this and make it into ES6. I'm gonna delete the code up here just so we have more space. And down here, what we can do is we can create this new promise. So I'm gonna call const prom, like this, so short for promise. And again, a promise is just an operation that's gonna finish in the future. Okay, so here I can call new promise, promise, like so. And this one takes 2 arguments here. We can add a resolve and a reject, like so. And we can just create a arrow function here. And everything that we do in here is asynchronous. Okay, async code. Good, perfect. So now we can just simulate the thing that we did up there. So we can say set timeout. It's basically the same thing we did. I'm just gonna call an empty arrow function here, and I'm gonna add 2 seconds, like so. And what we can do here is we can either resolve or reject with the actual data. So if I call resolve here, and I'll pass a data, like the data we had up there. I had 5, or let's just say 200. So I'm getting back the data 200, and that's all I have to do here. Okay, so down here, I can call prom, this promise, and the way we can access it, we don't need any callback functions or anything like that. We can just say dot then, and here I have access to that data, like so. We can do console log result. Hit save. We're gonna wait 1 and 2 seconds. We're gonna get an error, so let's make sure what's wrong here. We're gonna say result is not defined, okay, because I used result and not data. So this is the actual thing that comes back from all of this thing. Hit save. Let's see, 1, 2, and there we go. We get back the actual data, so 200. And again, to be more realistic, you're probably gonna have an object of things here, like user, add, password, and this should be encrypted, so it should look something like that. Hit save, and 1, 2, and look at that, we get back the object. So this is way simpler to do. It's way cleaner, and you know, in the previous versions, when you had with the callbacks, you would need sometimes to stack multiple callbacks, and it would just look messy. But here you can do something like .then again, and then you can do multiple operations. Okay, so that's then. And if you want to use reject, let me show you that as well. That's in case you have an error, you can do reject like so. And we can throw a new error, like by writing new error, and we can just leave a message. Something went wrong, like so. And rather than doing .then, I mean, we can do .then, and at the end we can attach a .catch. So if this .then is not gonna run, then it's automatically gonna go to this catch. And here we can access the error by writing error or whatever we want. Again, everything we define in here, and in here we can use whatever we want, okay? We can give it any name we want. So I'm just gonna say error here. I'm gonna console log this error. Hit save, and as you can see here, now after 2 seconds, it's gonna just throw me the error. Something went wrong, as you can see. So there we go. Those are promises. I'm not gonna go super in depth in them. We're gonna cover it more when we are working with Node.js in the future and that databases and things like that. It's gonna come super in handy right there. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. Yeah, I'm sorry if I blabbered around a bit sometimes, but this took a bit longer than I expected it to take. But anyways, thank you again so much for watching and for the support. I wholeheartedly appreciate, and we reached 3,000 subs in like 2 weeks. We got like 1,000 subs. That's absolutely insane. So thank you again so much for the support. Take care, and till next time. Bye bye.